Morning, Michael and Daniel. Thank you so much for coming here. My name is Abby, Abby Volin. I am a mediator. I understand there's a conflict that's bringing you here today. How I'd like to start is I'd like to just hear from both of you really briefly as to why you're here today. Just, really short summary of what's going on, and we'll get into the details of it in a bit. But first, I just like to hear what brings you here today. And then I want to tell you a little bit about how I work and some ways that we can go through this mediation, and then you can decide if you want to continue, if you do want to work with me on this. So with that, which one of you, what do you have any questions before we go? Nope. Okay. So with that, which one of you would like to go first? Please choose.
I can go. Good morning. I'm Michael Harrington. I'm here because I entered into this business venture with Daniel, and I would like some closure. We've obviously haven't had a meeting of the minds of this whole thing, and I want to resolve this whole business venture. I want to make sure my reputation is protected, and I am willing to discuss a financial separation agreement or some type
Okay.
of compensation.
Thank you. What I'm hearing is that this is a failed business. You were in a business partnership and it kind of went south, and you're concerned about your reputation right now. Is that
Yes.
right?
Yeah. And it went south through nothing that I did. But yeah, we can get into that later.
Yeah. Okay. Daniel, if you would just want to give me a short summary of what brings you here.
Sure, I'm glad Michael feels that he has no responsibility for any of this. I am here because, I also entered into this partnership with Michael. I thought we had a really great vision for moving ahead in this joint venture of ours. And at the beginning, I really felt like we had a good vision for where we were going to go, what we were going to do. And then I've just been completely sidelined. And now Michael seems determined to get rid of me. I've basically been kind of put into this symbolic token position where I'm here, but not participating in any way. And now that I've brought my concerns up and made clear that I really want to respect the partnership aspect of it, Michael seems determined to get rid of me. So, I'm here to figure out what the next steps are, but I find this totally unacceptable for someone who entered into a partnership that I really thought was going to be productive and do great things, and then to basically find out that I'm being used. And now that I've started to question that, Michael is clearly wanting to get rid of me. So
Thank you so much for sharing. I heard you were really excited. You had about this business venture, and then I'm hearing a lot of disappointment too that it didn't go well, that you were feeling sidelined, that you felt like you were kind of thrown away, and so that's kind of where you are at this. Is that describe how you were feeling?
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you both. I know this is really hard. I feel the charged emotions here. And that's what happens. I think we wouldn't be here if this were easy to resolve. So the way I like to operate for mediation is this is really about you. This is about the participant, that you guys are the ones, you've lived the experience, and you're the ones that are going to have to live with whatever outcome we come up with here today, if we do come up with a resolution. And so you own the conflict. You are the ones in the best position to know how to move forward with this. And my job is to try to help just develop a more of an understanding of what your own needs and interests and feelings are. Hopefully, develop a little bit better of an understanding of the other person, and then our external realities too, and see if we can come to a resolution based on that. My role is not to play referee or judge or make any decisions. It's a completely voluntary process. At any time, you are welcome to stop. At any time, you are the ones in charge of the process. Um, So with that being said, the first thing I like to do is for us to create our own agreements, our own ground agreements as to how we want to shape this mediation. So ground agreements, first off, are going to be how we want to engage with each other. What does the container look like? So something that is often of utmost importance to everyone is confidentiality. Um, and so that's something that we want to consider. And then there are some other elements that we want to bring into that as well. Also, because the parties own the conflict and you're going to own the resolution of this, if we come to an agreement about it, and because this is based on our understanding, we really have an opportunity here that's distinct from litigation. In litigation, often everybody walks away a little bit unhappy. Here we have an opportunity with an understanding of ourselves and each other to hopefully come up with a solution where everybody feels like their needs are being met and they are being heard. And so for that, I think it's really important that the information is free flowing and that everybody has all the information at the same time. So I want to see if there are any questions and if this is something you're interested in pursuing.
So so you talked about confidentiality. What does that mean? Does that mean that everything we say is private, or how does that work?
Yeah, so the things that we say here, they're not going to be used in a court of law. And then, I think it's for the two of you to decide. I think certainly it's best if we understand that everything that is said here stays within this mediation and it's not going to be used, you're not going to talk about it outside of this container.
Yeah, well, I mean, I would certainly be in favor of that because I feel like I'm here. I feel like Daniel has brought me here not necessarily in good faith to find a resolution, but more because he wants to assign blame for what's gone on with our project. But so I am very concerned about him spreading things beyond this meeting.
Yeah, and thank you for expressing that. This isn't about this isn't a matter of right or wrong. I'm not here to decide who's right or wrong. You have your own judgments about who's right or wrong. This is really about trying to get a better understanding of where each of you is coming from. And hopefully, with that understanding, we're able to craft a resolution where everybody's needs are met. So, again, this isn't about assigning blame. Daniel, do you have any thoughts, any concerns?
No, none on my end. I'm sorry that Michael feels this is a trap, but that's more his problem than mine.
Okay. You know, um, as I said, I really do feel charged emotions, and tension can often, as hard as it is, the only way past is through. So we may have to sit with some uncomfortable emotions here. And if it's ever too much, we can just take a pause, take a break, and slow things down. Daniel, does that sound good to you? That really everything that we say here remains in this container?
Sure.
Okay, great. So are there other ground agreements that we want to use that we want to set here?
Sure. I expect that, there's going to be the level of open communication you talked about. I'd love to see some of the respect that I've failed to get so far coming from Michael. But, as long as we can assure that, I think we're able to move forward.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is respect and authenticity, right? That we're bringing our full selves. That hopefully we can be a little bit vulnerable with this in just sharing this information. So I'm hearing respect. I'm hopefully hearing you're willing to be vulnerable, and hopefully maybe with that also comes like allowing each other to speak uninterrupted. Does that sound right?
I mean, sure, that all sounds good to me. I'm not quite sure what you mean by being vulnerable. I feel like I've been doing a lot of that over the past few months, but otherwise, as you've described it, that sounds good to me.
Yeah, so if that's how you feel like you are already presenting yourself, that's wonderful. And I think it can be hard. Being vulnerable is obviously very difficult. And I feel like because we have this container of confidentiality, I'm hoping that you both feel safe enough to be vulnerable, knowing that what you say here is not going to leave this container. Michael, does this sound okay to you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm willing to try it. You know, this is the most decisive I've seen Daniel, but yeah, I'm willing to try it.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that. So let's see. We have willingness to disclose and engaging in full faith in good faith. We have confidentiality. We have respect, and we have acknowledgement that this is a voluntary process. And if at any time you want to stop, you want to leave, then that is up to you. Um, so the next issue is just learning a little bit more about what happened. And to do that, I want each of you to tell me in your own words. We're going to go one at a time. What you see as what happened in this conflict. And I'd like for, you're not, it's very likely that you are going to have a very strong disagreement with what the other person is saying, and that is fine, and that is to be expected. But please share what you feel happened, and I'm going to see if I can understand what you're saying, um, and we can try to piece together this conflict a little bit, hopefully a little bit with a little more understanding of each other. So between the two of you, please choose who would like to go first.
Sure, I can go first. I mean, I feel like I already kind of said most of what I had to say before, but my current feeling is, as I said, I joined this company with Michael. We kind of collectively imagined what we would be doing. Our vision had been to kind of try and bring affordable power to local households and small businesses. It was going to be a renewable energy project, which I was super excited about. I got the sense that Michael was bringing me in as someone who had a lot of connections in the local area, who really knew, what's been going on in the field, been knowing the trends, been knowing the people involved. And, I was brought on as a partner. And over the past few years, I've increasingly started to feel that I wasn't being included in decisions. Financial changes were occurring without my knowledge. Very often, when I would ask about things, I would sort of be told, "Oh, it was urgent. We had to do this. We had very little time." And then at one point, basically, I started getting financial reports where I saw that major changes were being made. And I started to inquire as to, what's going on. Can I be included in this decision-making process? And was basically told, no, it had to happen. It was all very quick.
Hold
I
on,
was
let
sidelined.
me just make sure I have an understanding. You said a lot there, so let me just make sure I understand. So you and Michael got him. You decided to start a business, and I'm sorry, it was low cost energy for the community. Is that right?
Renewable energy work.
Renew
Yeah.
low cost renewable energy for the community, and you were brought in because of your connections and your know-how in the local community. Is that kind of right?
I mean, yeah, we designed this together with part of that skill set of mine in mind. Yes.
And yeah, okay. And then as the company progressed, as everything progressed, you were starting to feel sidelined and like things were happening without you and disrespected. Does that capture it?
Yeah, disrespected is a good word, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And then I'm sorry, please continue.
I was just saying, I was basically not being involved in any of these decisions, and I had been told we'd be bringing me in as an equal partner, and so I don't know, I increasingly felt like I was getting really confused. I started going into meetings where, clearly conversations had happened before decisions had been made already by the time I entered into meetings. So I was kind of just being informed of things. And when I tried to push back and say, I want to know more of what's happening, I was told that I was being difficult or complicated, or that, my opinions were valued, but that I didn't understand urgency or didn't understand the way things worked. I don't know. I mean, for me, that just feels completely and utterly ridiculous. Like, if I'm a partner, then I should be able to understand what's going on. And even worse, when I talk to my contacts in the community, I can't even explain to them what's happening because I'm not being consulted and have no information. So, now we've
Yeah.
gotten to this.
Yeah, what I'm here, I'm sorry if I may, just again, you say a lot, and I just want to make sure I'm understanding you that, you're brought in with these because you have these community contacts. But then as things start progressing, you just feel like you're being left out of all the important decisions to the point where, you're supposed to be this full partner, but you're finding that not only are you not having any input in these major decisions, you feel like you're just so far out of the loop that when you're going into the community, when people are calling you, you don't even know what to tell them, and this may be causing some embarrassment on your part as well. Does that sound
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
okay?
I could
All
agree with
right.
that.
So I'm feeling from you like you're just not feeling you weren't feeling respected, like your skills weren't being respected in this venture, like you're just feeling really unheard and sidelined.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, I could agree with that.
Okay. All right. Is there anything else you'd like me to know?
No, I mean, I feel like I've captured most of it. I'm here now because I want to figure out what we're doing next. Is something gonna change? I more than anything else want to, I don't know, I want the recognition that I've been kind of disrespected here, and that, as a result of that, there's got to be some sort of moving forward process. I don't know what that looks like, but I don't know. I was brought in as a partner and now I'm being treated like someone to be managed. Just find that
So
disrespectful.
you want some acknowledgement of your value.
Yeah, I could agree with that. Yeah, some kind of
Yeah.
clear acknowledgement of my value. That would be
Yeah,
good.
is that what you're okay? But that's what I'm hearing from you. Like that's what you're feeling. Like you're feeling like you haven't been acknowledged and your value hasn't been seen.
Yeah, yeah, I could agree with that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much. Michael, again, I'm sure you have some strong reactions to what he was saying. You don't have to agree with anything he said, but I'd just love to hear what's been happening, just from your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I'll start this by saying that I'm not in the babysitting business, okay? So I came onto this project, and by the way, this renewable energy, I mean, what our company or venture was doing was capturing the methane emissions from cows. That was our renewable energy project. He had the connections to the livestock. He had a lot of the local connections. We had a clear understanding of what the roles were going to be. I was going to be responsible for the financing, for the regulatory approvals, and the overall execution. Okay. And sometimes you have to make quick decisions. And was he brought in to have a belabored discussion about every single decision? No, because that would have made investors nervous. In my role, had to make decisions, and sometimes that meant decisions without always consulting him. But that,
So,
we can't be over consulting on every little thing that was going to stall the project.
so it sounds to me like you were here really to run operations. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And you felt like you know, that Daniel came in with the connections and then you were here to really move the project forward and that a lot of times these decisions had to be made quickly. Is that correct?
Correct. And I didn't want to be micromanaged. And as they say, micromanagement can be the destroyer of all momentum. So
Okay.
quick,
So
decisive decisions. And,
yeah, so you felt like you had to make these really strong, decisive decisions, as it were, and there really wasn't any time for a lot of
hand
discussion
holding.
about it,
Yes.
hand
And
holding.
consulting and making sure, he was on board with every little thing because it would have stalled the project. It would have stalled our progress.
Okay,
Um,
so the efficiency of the project was really important to you.
Right, ensuring we they're in the funding and the regulatory approval. If I had to stop in a phone call and then go and call Daniel when I'm on the phone with one of the compliance folks from one of the regulators, then I mean we could be losing a day, 2 days until I could get that person back on the phone. So sometimes those are the kind of decisions that need to be made.
So it sounds like you were concerned that, if there were hesitations or delays in making these decisions, because you had to have more discussions about it and more debate about it, that it was really going to impede the progress of your operations, and it might even impact the investors. Is that what you were
Yes.
saying?
Yes, I think that's a fair summary.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. That's really helpful. Um, so, Danielle, what is one thing that you think it would be important for Michael to understand?
I mean, I don't know why Michael is talking about babysitting or hand holding. My attitude here is we entered into this as partners. I can understand the concept of needing to make decisions. It's one thing to make decisions because things are urgent. Every decision was like that. And if I can't inform our partners of what's going on, then I don't understand what the point of making decisions without consulting me is. Sure, I don't necessarily need say on every single decision, but at the end of the day, if I am unable to explain to our partners why things are happening, then what's the point in having those connections? So I don't know where Michael is getting the idea that I am some kind of person who needed to be babysat during this entire situation. All I was looking for was the level of respect and at least the level of information being told, hey, we're making this decision, or hey, we'd like to have an opportunity for you to be consulted on this, rather than treating me like I'm basically insane and trying to hinder progress. I am as invested in this project as Michael ever was. I have connections to the community who strongly felt that they wanted to get involved, and that's what I brought here. So I don't know where Michael is coming up with the idea that somehow I am an impediment to efficiency. I find that disrespectful, and I
So,
find that
uh,
incredibly insulting.
Daniel, if I may stop you for a second, again, I'm feeling such strong emotions here. And again, this feels what I think I'm hearing, and you'll have to, let me know if I'm right, is that you want an acknowledgement of your worth on this project, that you bring value to it, and that you wanted some, even if you didn't need to have input, you needed to at least have all the knowledge, so that you were serving as an equal partner in this venture. Does that sound right?
I mean, yeah, in part, although having just heard Michael speak, I don't know if acknowledgement quite covers it anymore. I mean, just being told, "Oh, good job," that's not what I want. I want to actually be respected as a partner here. That's what I came in to do. Now Michael is talking to me as though I'm some kind of asset. I don't know. Now we're at a point where what I really want to be seeing here is an acknowledgement that not only am I a full partner in this, but that my contributions, yes, are important, but that I should be treated as someone who has a relevant say in this process.
Yeah, again, what I'm hearing is that you want acknowledgement of, not that you need the pat on the back of good job, but what you want, what you feel like is meaningful to you, is an acknowledgement of the value that you bring to this project.
Sure, yeah.
Well, that wasn't totally convincing. What am I missing with that?
I don't know. I mean, for me, that respect piece is really what I want to see here. And I don't know. Acknowledgement feels like it's not quite covering it for me, but
Yeah.
but what you've said makes sense.
What does respect mean to you?
I mean, in this case, I'd like to actually know how we're going to be either, if we're moving forward with this, which I'm not even really sure if that's what I want anymore, but if we are
Mhm.
moving forward with this, then I want a clear sense of how I'm going to be included in decisions. And if we're not moving forward in this, then I want a clear understanding of how is what I have done for this company, which is not inconsiderable, going to be valued.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Yeah. So again, it's respect for you, just showing the value of what you have already brought and what you continue to bring to this project. That sounds fair?
Yes.
Okay. Michael, what is one thing that you would like Daniel to understand about where you're coming from?
That with, I guess, the way that I do business, I am just not in, I guess, in the business of, I can't worry about my partner's feelings all the time and whether or not I've stepped on their toes. And a true solid partner, we need to be able to trust each other and have confidence in each other's decisions. Um, and without that additional oversight that I feel like I was under a microscope and question and second guess, and it was just a bad look. It was a bad look.
So one thing that I just heard is that is trust. That trust is really important to you. That your partner trusts you in making these decisions and everything that all of the aspects that you were in charge of. That trust was important to you.
Yes.
Did
Yes.
you feel like you were being trusted?
No, no, no. I mean, I feel like I was being second guessed, and I don't know if it's just because he felt left out and he wanted to be, part of every decision making process. I know he says he doesn't or he didn't, but um, you know, he had plenty of
Yeah.
opportunities to get involved and to be a part of the program, and he was always just a little bit late to the party.
All right, so you feel like trust was really important to you, and you felt like you had offered opportunities to be involved, but for whatever reason, Daniel just wasn't there when you needed decisions to be made. Is that
That's
right?
part, yeah, that's part of it. That's fair.
That's
I don't
part of
know. I
it.
wouldn't argue that I wasn't there. I would argue that I was never invited in the first place. So I don't know where the concept of, oh, I didn't show up is. If you don't invite someone to the party, they're not going to show up to the party. So I'm not totally sure where the concept that, oh, I was behind. You were operating on your own agenda, making your own decisions, acting in a way that was completely unilateral. Don't feel at any time that I was asked, you want to get involved. I was told retroactively decisions have been made. And when I started to question that, I was told you're being difficult. And now we're at this babysitting language.
Hey,
You see how exhausting
Daniel,
this
I'm
is.
sorry. One moment,
So
Daniel.
exhausting.
I feel the disappointment. I feel the really strong emotion coming from you. Right now, and I really want to hear what you have to say. But right now, I'm talking with Michael. I'm wondering if it's okay if we can just continue to let Michael talk for a little bit, and then we'll get back
Sure,
to you. Is that
sure.
okay? All right. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, Michael, so I think we were just discussing how you felt like there was perhaps a little bit of a lack of trust with your decision making that you were feeling.
Yeah. I mean that, yeah, the lack of trust, and you can see why. I mean, you bring Daniel into a conversation, and he really has a way of, not all the time, but he can have a way of being long-winded and sort of impeding the process. And so if there were decisions that I felt like I had all of the in the moment that I needed to make, I made them. And there were plenty of opportunities to, if you wanted to know what's going on, I wasn't intentionally trying to keep him out of, trying to exclude him from the decision making process. I wasn't being dishonest, and I'm sorry if it appeared that way to him, but that was not my intent. I really felt like I was acting in the best interest of the project. I mean, that was really,
Okay.
I had the best of intentions and the best interests of the company in mind.
Yeah, I think that's helpful to hear that you feel like you really had the best interests of the company in mind, and it was never your intention to purposely exclude Daniel. Is that right?
Yeah, no, it wasn't.
Yeah.
But again, I can't reach out to him, and I can't hold his hand through the entire process and worry about hurting his feelings. And I mean, that is just not how I operate. I get things done.
Yeah.
I'm a
Can
doer.
you can you understand that he felt like he was being excluded?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely hear that now.
Yeah. Okay. How does that land with you? Understanding that that wasn't your intention, but how does that land with you?
I mean, I wish he had handled it differently. I wish he had just come directly to me and talked to me about it instead of making more of a spectacle of it, and second guessing me in front of investors and Um, yeah, and second guessing so many decisions. He could have just been really direct with me and come to me about it.
So it feels like you did not feel trusted, that your decisions were not trusted. That especially, you made the decisions, and then for whatever reason, Daniel wasn't there, but then Daniel would second guess these decisions in front of other people. So again, like you felt like your worth, your value wasn't necessarily being acknowledged and valued. And Daniel was, instead of coming to you with concerns, he was expressing these in a way that you felt like was not conducive to operating the business. Does that sound
Yeah,
right?
and I don't need, like, unlike Daniel, I don't need a ton of accolades and pats on the back and attaboys and all of that. But what I do need is someone who's not going to make the company or project look bad in front of others. So I need that trust, and that he's not questioning me. And if he does have an issue, that he comes directly to me.
Yeah,
Have
yeah.
that
Thank
discussion.
you. No, thank you for expressing that. I think that makes I think that makes sense to me that you were feeling like he didn't trust you. And with all the second guessing and that this lack of trust was really potentially impeding the project, which kind of was self-reinforcing, right? Like the more you felt like you weren't being trusted, the more you kind of felt like you just had to make these decisions. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Daniel, I know had a really strong reaction to all of this, and I'm just curious how it lands with you. When Michael said it felt like you weren't trusting him. How that lands with you.
I mean, I don't know. It's fascinating to hear that as a clearly trust is a two-way street. You want trust, you have to give trust, which, as I said from the beginning, I never felt I received. I'm really glad that Michael understands how embarrassing it is to be in front of investors or stakeholders and not know what's going on. I've been managing that for about a year now because every time I deal with local partners, I don't know what's going on. I can't explain our decisions. I'm constantly ending up in meetings where I have to tell them, I don't know, I didn't have a say, or worse, where I'm going to tell them that I'm going to inject some of their concerns into a conversation and then walk into the room to find out Michael has already decided something. So I came to Michael with my concerns early on saying, hey, what's going on with this decision? I wanted to get a better understanding and was basically sidelined and told you just don't understand. It needed to be done quickly and we had to make a decision, financial concerns or efficiency concerns. At the end of the day, I get sidelined because the attitude is, oh, well, you just have to trust that I know what I'm doing. Well, that's fine. Doesn't change the fact that that I'm going to get embarrassed in front of stakeholders, and doesn't change the fact that I don't know what's going on. So, I'm glad to hear that that's important to Michael, but clearly he's only thinking about himself. He doesn't realize that I'm in the exact same situation.
Yeah, so it sounds like, I mean, I heard embarrassment a lot, that you kind of felt like you were not being in the loop with Michael's decisions, put you in a place where you just felt like you fell really flat with those in the community and other investors because you didn't have the answers, and you felt embarrassed by that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Michael, how does that land with you? Just hearing that.
I mean, I think I know that he gets embarrassed pretty easily and he's a pretty thin skin. But yeah, I guess I'm just sort of thinking of like, where do we go from here? Right. I mean, there's probably things that I could have done better with including him. I mean, he could have had more trust and faith in me. And I don't really know where we go from here.
Yeah, well, I think we want to understand what our interests are. And I think for you, Daniel, I think in, just getting a little bit, hearing what happened and trying to understand where you're coming from. I think your interests come from like feeling heard, and respected, and your value acknowledged. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Okay. feel it was what do you say, feeling heard and being respected. And then for you, Michael, I feel like trust was a really big thing for you. You wanted to feel like you had the trust of your partner, and that wasn't always the case.
Right. Trust and not right. So that he wouldn't be micromanaging my decision making.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I think you know, whether or not you come to, well, I think you have to, we have to, this is, um, so we have our interests. So Michael wants to feel trusted. And Michael, what else will help you? It's something that's going to help you through this. You want to feel trusted. Um,
Well, I guess I'm thinking like, what is I want to feel trusted. And I'm questioning, should we even continue with this partnership? I think that's
yeah,
kind of where I'm at.
yeah, yeah. I'm wondering if there is something. Is there with what Daniel has been saying? Is there something that you can tease out that's he's saying that's important to him?
Well, he wants to be consulted, and he wants to be part of the process, uh and he wants to his value to be acknowledged. And that's all fine. I'm just not sure that
Well,
I'm
hold on, Daniel. Is that correct? Did she get that correct?
Yeah, I mean, consulted is, yeah, that
Yeah.
does kind of sum up what I want. I
Okay.
mean, there's
Can
obviously
you
deeper layers to it, but
can you tell me one thing that Michael has said that's important to him?
I mean, Michael has mentioned trust, and I guess, I mean, I'm hearing that he has concerns about the efficiency of the process and wants to feel that he's able to make autonomous decisions, not that he hasn't already been
Michael,
making them,
does
but
that
wants.
hold on, Michael, does that land right with you? Is that correct?
I mean, yeah, I suppose he's right. He's acknowledging that he didn't fully trust my decisions and my decision making process.
Yeah, yeah. Just let's just keep going. Let's just see how far we can take this. Is there something else that he said that you could take that was important to him?
I mean, I'll be honest, it just sounds like more of the same. I
Hmm.
mean, he this is why I'm just not sure that we have a future as in a partnership.
Hmm.
I mean, just he has a lot of need for accolades and
Well,
praise and
I
consulting.
don't think he said accolades. I think just like you, he actually said he didn't need a pat on the back. I think it was an acknowledgement of the value that he brings to the project, right? Like bringing in the stakeholders and community members, and as you said, his connections with the cows.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I know.
yeah.
I mean, I'll fully acknowledge. I mean, he has the best livestock connections of anyone I know, and when this industry, I mean, you couldn't find a better person to partner with in that regard.
Okay. Yeah,
However,
that's
there's some other shortcomings, as we've already discussed.
yeah. Well, we're seeing if we can find a way to work through them. Daniel, we're just getting last round. We just want to see if there's something else that you've been able to pull out from what Michael has said that is really important to him.
No, I mean, again, I'm hearing that trust. I'm hearing Michael talking about wanting to ensure efficiency. He's mentioned this embarrassment, which, I hear you. It's never fun. Been there. I can completely understand that. And then, I hear this desire to figure out what happens next, which I completely share. That's why we're here, is for me I want to figure out where we're going.
Michael, does that sound right to you?
Yeah, yeah. We need
Yeah,
to prepare our future.
I just want to take a pause for a second. Um, I just I just want an acknowledgement here of how far you both have come. I feel like the temperature has lowered a lot. I think you both came in really charged, and I feel like the temperature has lowered, and I feel like I'm seeing um, a better understanding within each of you of what your needs were. And I feel like you're hearing and you're understanding the other person a little more than when you first came in. And I just want to thank you for being vulnerable and being willing to put yourself out there and being willing to listen to the other person and really take it in. So I think that's something you should be really proud of. And I just want to hold that for a second and acknowledge it. Yeah. How are you feeling now, Michael?
Um, I mean, yeah, I think I'm feeling a little more willing to discuss certain things, but it seems to me more clear than ever that I just don't think that I think I need closure,
Yeah. Okay.
this business arrangement, but I
Yeah.
appreciate all you've done, to kind of get us here.
Daniel, how are you feeling right now?
I mean, I don't know. Not much has changed. I've heard a lot, but I still don't know what the solution here is, and I don't
Yep.
actually feel like there's been any movement for me on how any of what we're acting as though this is a normal process. I don't feel like that was a normal process. I agree. I want to see some kind of closure here, and I want that acknowledgement that I have yet to fully hear. I've heard a bit of it from Michael, which I appreciate, but.
Okay. Um, so let's start talking about some ideas for a resolution. This is just a brainstorm. What we talk about now, it's going to be probably a package of ideas. So not just one idea is going to be part of a resolution. Feel free to throw anything out. You are not wedded to it. It doesn't have to mean it's an idea that you particularly like, but I think a lot of times ideas will beget other ideas. So this is just a brainstorming session, and we can try to, just look at what some potential resolutions might look like, play around with that, and we can evaluate them and measure it against interests and kind of see where it falls from there. So if does either one of you have ideas for how to resolve this?
Well, I mean, what I would need is, I mean, I am not sure that my presence in this business venture um, is going to be effective, nor is it prudent for me to continue, given I think what's happened. I'm not sure there's any way to salvage this relationship. So for me, I'm looking at closure in the sense of some type of financial separation or compensation. But I need finality.
Okay, so dissolve the partnership. That's one idea. Would you like to, is part of this, do you have a desire to continue in this partnership, or is that just, the end of it for you?
I mean, I am 95% that it is that we need to have some finality here, meaning, yes, that we should not continue working together.
What's the 5%?
I mean, I probably because I'm just never 100% person.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be overly negative, but fine, 99% say that I think it's and just hearing Daniel talk has cemented that for me.
Well, what would it, just out of curiosity, what would it take to continue the partnership for you?
Probably having Daniel in a completely different role that didn't require a lot of interaction.
Okay, so let's put that down as an option, right? So separate, continue the partnership, separate, distinct roles that didn't have any overlap.
Yeah, I would say yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the minimal interaction.
Okay. Daniel, do you have any ideas?
I mean, hey, if Michael wants out, he's welcome to leave. I don't know. I'm in a situation where, yeah, I also kind of question what we're doing with this partnership. If Michael's idea is he wants to leave the company, then that's fine. I'm happy to take over. Um, if I guess talking about distinct roles, sure. I'm still in this position where I have been repeatedly embarrassed, both in front of stakeholders and in front of other colleagues. So I'm not really sure how sticking around will address that. Um, but if Michael's solution here is that he wants to go, then let him go. But
Well, what kind of role would be what kind of structure would be the case where you would just have distinct roles, where there would still be communication, so the left hand knows what the right is doing? What do you think that could look like?
I mean, I don't know. I'd probably want something that more formally recognizes. I mean, I thought we were entering into this as a equal partnership. Clearly, that wasn't the case. So I'd want something a little more clear that solidifies how decisions are going to be made and who's going to be involved in what. Um, and sure, if we want to talk about distinct but separate roles, for me to move forward, I would need a clear recognition of how that's going to work and a title that reflects my contributions. Clearly, being called a partner didn't mean much to Michael, so we'd have to discuss a clear delineation of titles and roles that actually reflects the respect that we have for this organization and for each other.
Okay. Okay. And then what would it look, what are some other ideas you have for resolving this?
I mean, I don't know. I think we've covered most of the big things that immediately come to mind. I'm fine with exploring the option of Michael leaving if that's what he wants to do.
Let's see. So dissolving the partnership, who would take the company in that case?
Happy to take over.
So Michael, is that, well, okay. So Daniel takes over the company. Okay. Anyone else have some thoughts? Can we explore a little more about what formal recognition of like a decision-making process and delineation of roles and titles might look like?
Sure.
Do you have ideas of, so do you have, right now, it sounds like there was never anything in place other than a partnership agreement, but there was never clear delineation of what each other's responsibilities and tasks were. Is that correct?
I mean, I don't know if we, I thought we had a clear understanding of what our roles were. But I mean, I'm not really sure how that was interpreted by Daniel. It's clear that, I mean, maybe we needed something in writing, or we needed a better business plan, something more specific, but it's kind of water under the bridge now.
Yeah, so is there any desire to engage in creating, crafting, working towards crafting more of those formal roles or decision-making process or anything like that? Is there any desire in there?
I mean, only in as much as it gets us to moving forward and, my exiting the company.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So
the way that protects my reputation. So, and
Okay.
compensates me.
Okay. So also your interest is maintaining reputation. Okay. All right. Well, just with these options, let's think about I want to think about how palatable these feel to you. So I want to assign a letter to them. A means that like you're really willing, this is really interesting to you. B means like maybe this is something that you're willing to consider, and C is like you're really not interested in this idea at all. So dissolving the partnership. What letter is that for you, Michael?
That's an A.
That's your A, okay. And Daniel? Oh, you're muted, Daniel.
Sure. A.
That's also your A, okay. Continuing the business with distinct roles. Michael, what is that for you?
It's like a C-.
Okay. And Daniel?
Yeah, I'd probably agree with Michael. That's pretty low on my
Okay.
options.
Okay. And then formal, continuing, but with formal recognition of the decision-making process.
Yeah, I mean, if he needs recognition and he needs more specificity, I mean, but
Well,
again,
recognition of how how you're making decisions, right? Like a formal agreement as to how you'd be making
yeah.
decisions with it.
I mean, if we're not continuing, I don't really see a need to talk about it, I guess. So I
Nope.
put that
Well,
as a C.
Yeah,
I
agreed.
guess. Okay. All right. So it sounds like that's a C for both of you.
Yeah.
So how about Daniel taking over the company? How's that one landing?
I mean, that to me is okay with the caveat that I would need to be compensated if there'd be some type of exit package.
Right. Well, we're not there at numbers yet. Right now, I think it's just deciding if you want to continue this partnership or not.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So what would this be? A, B, or C for you, Daniel taking over the company?
I mean, yeah, again, and it would be an A, like an A plus, assuming there's appropriate financial compensation attached to that. Yeah.
Okay. And Daniel for you?
Yeah, I'm fully happy to take over.
Okay. All right. Well, it sounds like the way this is going to go is dissolving the partnership. And I hope that as we move towards this, there's at least a bit of a recognition and understanding in how the other person was operating. That it seems like everybody, both of you, were really operating with the company's best interests in mind, and perhaps your own needs weren't being met due to some miscommunications. And I'm wondering how you're feeling about this right now.
Yeah,
I feel
pretty
like
good.
we're on the right path as we discussed the
Yeah.
decision. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Daniel?
Yeah, I'm happy to continue to see how we can see Michael out.
Yeah, well, as is there any role that Michael would have to play as for Michael to just leave that probably wouldn't be too realistic. So what would that look like, for Michael to just completely exit? There probably are going to be some loose ends or, I don't know how well versed you are in the regulatory matters and things like that. So what kind of support do you think you might need?
I'd have to look into it to get a clearer sense of what the next steps would be, but I'm sure I can find a replacement.
Well, certainly Michael holds some institutional knowledge here that's going to be helpful.
Um, yeah, I don't disagree. There would be some transition period, probably. I'd have to get a sense of what that would look like, and
Yeah, so
obviously
let's
looking for
discuss.
Michael's replacement.
So perhaps this is something that the two of you should take a little bit of time to think about what that might look like, and then we can reconvene and try to hash out what an appropriate exit um, package could look like, both in terms of the dollar amount, and then Michael in terms of what kind of information and what are some loose ends that you would still need to wrap up, and what are the kinds of projects and information that Daniel would need to make sure that there's smooth operations. How does that sound to both of you?
Sure,
Uh,
I'd be willing to talk with him about that and come
Well,
back
no,
and
not talk with him about that. I think that's something that you need to think about outside, and then we reconvene for another session to work out a little more how this would be resolved.
yeah, I'm happy to think about that.
Yeah.
I can give you a decision in my thoughts pretty quickly, but yeah.
Yeah. Daniel?
yeah, sure. Happy to reflect.
Okay. Wonderful. All right. Thank you. I know this has not been an easy process, an easy discussion. And again, I just really thank both of you for being willing to have the discussion and being vulnerable and bringing yourselves. And I felt like the conversation, while heated, I do feel like you gained a better understanding of each other, and that it was there was a lot of courtesy that that was engaged while we were having this discussion. And so I really thank you for bringing that within yourselves for this.
Great. Well, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for bringing it.
Of course.
It was everything I could do not to make a cow joke. Like when you said something about
No,
and I was like, all right, can't do that.
I love your expression at the end of the session. You're just like, I'm so glad this is done. No, this is, it's kind of funny because I was like, if assuming you had not said earlier on that this was your first mediation, I think we probably would have not realized that this is your first mediation, and that, speaks to the
Thank
quality
you.
of your facilitation. And I would be curious to hear from the parties themselves. How did the mediation go for you? Then, after parties have finished, I will turn the floor to you, the mediator, and then we will have our coach conclude with a comprehensive remark.
Okay.
Who would like to go first? The plaintiff. Dylan.
It's me? Okay. I'm just looking at my notes very quickly. I noted a few things down. First off, though, Abby, well done. Not an easy mediation. Business relationships are always a complicated one. And I agree with Francis. I think you should give yourself a little bit of credit because you did pretty well. This was not easy in any circumstance, and you did a pretty good job at managing the entire process and kind of trying to get us to focus on certain things. I also really like you do a very good job of reflecting. You are very good at kind of capturing what it is that parties are trying to get at. I heard from you all of the right way of really trying to connect deeper with what parties are saying, what they're feeling, and where they're going. I would urge you to be a little bit careful about going too far into that because I think there were times in which you started to border on not putting words in our mouth, but you had certain moments in which you said certain things where and I'm trying to find the exact moment, but there were a few moments in which you started to move into problem solving or proposing solutions in a way, which I know at one point I heard you do it and I jumped on it very, very quickly to kind of move my own position forward. A few things I would just note for you to just be a little bit careful about. Be very careful about interrupting parties. You do this to reframe, which is good, but I think there were a few moments in which I or Kristen were mid kind of talking something out and you stopped us and you said, okay, I want to quickly, reflect back what you're saying, which is good. It's good that you're reflecting. It's a little harder if you keep interrupting the parties because they will feel increasingly like you are trying to control their emotions and the direction you're going in, which is the only other thing I would say is don't be afraid of strong emotions. There were a few moments where I think you were interrupting to try and contain kind of stronger reactions, which can be good, but just be very careful. It's okay if parties start to get a little heated. What you don't want them to do is get heated to the point that they're sort of derailing entirely the mediation.
Yeah.
I did like your intro. I would personally, and I'd love to hear Francis's and Carolyn's thoughts on this. I would personally recommend laying out a little bit more about the mediation process before you ask parties to share where they're at. Because I don't know, I as a party kind of felt like I was stewing in what I was thinking and feeling. And then you kind of laid out confidentiality and everything else. I might recommend doing your introduction first, explaining how is this process going to work, and then moving into things. A few things I strongly recommend you avoid. You use the expression "you have to" a few times. don't tell parties what they have to do, because it will always kind of result in them being like, I don't have to do that. Like, I can just be angry. Um, you also did something, and I'd love to hear how Kristen felt about it. At some point, you said, I want to take a pause to have a quick acknowledgement here that the temperature has lowered. And I want us to take a moment of pause to recognize that. That can be helpful. If the parties aren't necessarily there, it can kind of come off as though you're patting yourself on the back and you're asking us to do it with you.
Mm.
So it's a very fine line, and I'd be very careful about using it. But otherwise, I really did think you did a really great job. It This was not easy. You actually moved us more forward than I would have expected to be moved forward. And yeah, I'll be interested to hear your thoughts on how things went, especially your decision to stay in joint session for the entire thing.
Thank you, Dylan. Let's have Christine, then we'll come to Abby after.
Yeah, I don't have too much more to add. I mean, I wrote down a lot of some of your adages. You're saying like you own the conflict. I liked that, and you talked about having an agreement about confidentiality. Although I guess I got a little confused because it almost seemed like I guess were you trying to come at it like we were deciding collectively about confidentiality,
Mm-hmm.
that we had an option for it not to be. So that part I wasn't sure where that was. But it's like we came to it, we agreed. So in the end it was fine. So I'd be interested to see what Francis and Carolyn have to say about that as well. Like tension is sometimes only way passes through it like that. And I liked a lot of like kind of your buzzwords about the respect and authenticity. I mean, I think you did a good job of reflecting. I think it was a really difficult mediation set of facts. That the pause where you said you were acknowledging things, I do kind of agree with Dylan. If you were looking for something positive to say in a compliment, which is good, but maybe something a little safer, because at that moment I was feeling like, okay, I just want to move forward and get, be done with this and I'm not with the mediation, but just be done with this partnership. And I was dropping hints that I didn't even really want to talk too much more about this. I just want to look to the future. So, I mean, that's just something to think about. But you did a really great job of bringing everything to a close too at the end. That was really wrapped it up really nicely. So, good job.
Thanks.
And what about you, Christine? How did it go for you? I mean, not Christine, Abby, sorry.
Whew, I'm like still nervous. So as I said, my first one, so I was playing around with some things. And some of it was like, it was interesting. Some things that like I had been taught from the training, but like instinctually didn't feel right to me. So exactly what you were saying, like the way I started, I kind of feel that too, that start with like laying out more about the process and then letting them talk. I used that pause there because I felt like the temperature had lowered dramatically, and then maybe it hadn't for you, but it had felt like it had. And so I just, maybe I just need to figure out a different way to phrase it, but I wanted an acknowledgement, like for you to see how far that we had gone. Certainly didn't mean for that to feel like a pat on the back. After a while, I got a little bit like, there was a point where, I mean, I don't even remember where it was, but I wasn't even quite sure, how to progress. Like I felt like maybe I hadn't fleshed out the interests enough, so that we could get to a place where we were brainstorming options. And, I don't think that dissolving the partnership was the wrong way to go, but I felt like you had started to understand each other a little more, and there was some empathy. And so, it felt like it completely backtracked after that, and maybe the pause is the one that the part that did it, but I felt like you had started to display empathy for the other's point of view. But then it felt like once we got into the options, that just kind of went by the wayside, and you're just like, nope, I'm washing my hands. I'm done with this person. And there wasn't like like the understanding that we had been developing felt like it was no longer there. And I went, oh, well, maybe I hadn't maybe the temperature hadn't been lowered. Maybe they still were really upset, even though it felt like things were a little calmer. Um, um, and I didn't want to caucus, one because that's the model I was taught, is not caucusing. And the model that I was taught, and that where the way I'm trying to show up in this, is that it is more of a restorative approach. And because Daniel had been saying that, like, he felt sidelined, and he felt like he was already out of the loop and didn't have all the information, and there wasn't this amount of trust, and he didn't know what was going to be said about him. And I'm like, that kind of solidified in my mind even more that, like, he's going to that can really be exacerbated if we do get into a situation where I'm just talking with one of them at a time without the other person there. So that's why those are the reasons I made that decision.
Mm-hmm. And when it comes to acknowledging that the temperature has lowered, like, what happened that has contributed to, maybe you observing that the temperature has lowered?
I felt like they were expressing an understanding of how the other person was feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that within myself, I felt the tension had dissipated.
Mm-hmm. So,
and they weren't like going off on the other person as much at that point, is what it felt like.
Do you think, and this is also going to go to the parties, do you think that your perception of it would have been different if she acknowledged what exactly has happened that has led to the temperature coming down? For example, maybe she acknowledged specifically parties having or showing empathy for each other's perspective, as opposed to saying, I acknowledge the temperature has gone down.
Is that a question for us?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so. Pointing to that, because I mean, Abby's right. I did say I can understand how he might have felt that way. I guess I was being a little more understanding. So just yeah, maybe just pointing directly to what I said instead of labeling it.
Yeah. So I think, maybe, let's say, moving forward, it will make sense to specifically identify what is it that parties did, which has, according to you, contributed to lowering that temperature, as opposed to, identifying that the temperature has lowered. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Caroline.
Oh, thank you. Abby, I thought you did a fabulous job. I never would have known it was your first mediation. I really liked your conversational pace. I felt really comfortable. I felt like we were just having a conversation. And I really liked your energy. It didn't feel stressful to me or rushed. It felt really good. I agree that the opening statement, I was curious about your opening statement, but I think it would have been better to not break up their feelings. I liked how it was conversational, but you had them get some feelings out, then you talked, then they had to go back to their feelings. So I think I would have laid out what the process was going to be like first.
Okay.
I also noticed throughout exactly what Dylan said. I felt pretty stressed as a listener about the interruptions. I know what you're trying to do. I've just decided in my own practice that when people are going on, I just not going to interrupt. I'll try to recap as much as I can. I'll do the best I can at the end, but I felt a lot of interruptions. It was making me feel a little stressed. I also noticed that you almost were putting words in people's mouths, telling them how they were feeling. So it sounds like you felt disrespected, or sounds like you were embarrassed. And Dylan was just like, yep, he was just agreeing. So I don't really know how he felt. He was just really agreeing with what you said. I think a better question is, how did that make you feel? Um,
Okay.
I mean, I keep a list next to me of open-ended questions, so I only will ask the open-ended questions. Um, I really, oh, just jumping back, I loved how you described the mediation versus litigation about we're going to meet your needs, and in litigation, everyone leaves a little unhappy, but in mediation, you're all going to get your needs met. I thought that was really good. I liked that. Um, I wonder if there should be less focus on you can decide if you're going to work with me or we'll try. I always approach here we are, and our goal today is to get to a resolution. So I don't leave a lot of room for, well, you might not come to resolution, or maybe you don't want to work with me, or maybe you do want to work with me. I'm just really, that's where we're going. And hopefully we'll get there, but I don't say
Mhm.
that out loud. So I wonder, just be a little more like confident about what's going to happen today. Um,
Motion detected at the 10 floor.
I noticed the word vulnerable a lot,
Mhm.
which to me felt a little scary. Almost you're asking me to be vulnerable or telling me I was being vulnerable. I really didn't know what that meant. It was maybe too touchy-feely for me. It just felt a little scary. Um, I thought you did a really good job of narrowing in on their on the issue because they were like all over the place, but you really narrowed in on it and you narrowed in on their interests. I thought you did a really good job and you did a great job leading them through that brainstorming session. Um, I think at the end of the day, there would have been some value in doing at least one private to really see what their goals were. So, Kristen said at the opening that she just wanted to break up, basically.
Mhm.
But Dylan said, I'm not sure what my next steps are. So it sounds like I would have really wanted to know what their goals were and what they could have looked like if they had picked different goals. I think I would have wanted that information to
Okay.
help me in that brainstorming session. Um, but that was it. I thought you did a fabulous job. Good job. Good work.
Thank you. What are some other examples of open-ended questions that you like to keep by you?
It's really so what does that look like for you? How do you imagine that working? Um, how does that make you feel? Tell me more about that. What could have been done differently? Things like that. It's like who, what, when, where, how.
Okay, that's helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. And I also just not to repeat what everyone has said. Your brainstorming, I enjoyed it. Like your systematic brainstorming process was amazing, where you got parties to, first list all their options down, then rank those options,
Yeah.
in terms of importance, in terms of importance, like this one, Karu, you know, how many weight or what is the grading score, for each of these points. And I think I can't remember who among the parties started by talking about, yeah, this is not going to work for me. And you said, well, we're not yet at that point. I thought that was really good because oftentimes when you start brainstorm, parties will immediately start criticizing the offer, right? And if you allow them to continue that way, you are now entering into a premature evaluation, which then will leave a lot of values unclaimed, right? So pausing the parties, notifying them that yeah, we will get there, but right now we're not yet there, gives them the opportunity to exhaust their option, rank their option, and when the time for the evaluation comes, they can easily trade options in terms of what is important for you, what is important for Dylan's, what is
Yeah,
like that. So that was really good. Um, I don't want to repeat everything that members have said, but overall, I really really enjoyed your sessions, and I think you did fantastic.
Fantastic.
thank you.
any question for any of us before we conclude today's session?
No. I mean, you gave me a lot to think about and chew over, and I feel like um, uh, I think I just need to keep doing it, and perhaps I have a good rhythm, and just those things that you mentioned, they were. I think some of them really, really did resonate. So I appreciate your feedback. I think the open-ended questions will certainly help, like especially if I'm feeling at a loss of where to go. That there were a couple times I'm like, I don't know what to say. But those open-ended questions, I think, would have been really helpful. I could have just pulled them out, and that could have helped with that. And really helpful feedback about the interrupting as well, because that was also something that was done in the training. It was like, no, it's okay, break it up. No, it's okay. Like, if it's getting to a point where like you feel like you can't remember anymore, maybe that's a good time to stop and reconnect and kind of loop back with them, like what they were saying. So it's good to hear how it felt as somebody as participating, that it actually didn't feel good. That was helpful. There was something else. It's in my notes. No, you gave me a lot to play around with for the next time I try this. So I thank you for bringing it and make me work for it, and give me some anxiety over this, and then
One
work through it. But this is for.
one thing I wanted to add really quick, Abby, because you mentioned that you were trying to follow a restorative process and having done some work in
Yeah.
restorative and transformational mediation. What I would say is take that early time to also figure out where, especially for a business relationship, where parties are at relationship wise, because I think taking a restorative approach is good if parties are in the mentality of we do want to restore this. And I saw kind of what you were doing, but I think you also realized at some point, both of us were kind of in the mindset of we wanted to walk away. So it may have been interesting to see how you might have switched from using a purely facilitative method of, okay, it sounds like we're walking away from this, versus a more restorative approach, which would focus on how can we, make this more acceptable for each other. So I like that you thought of both, but I would say, yeah, take the step back, especially on relationships, and start kind of with the internal question of, is this relationship something that is meant to be salvaged through this process? Are we working on the relationship here, or are we just working on the conflict? And if you get the two confused, what can end up happening is something where parties get a little lost themselves on where it is they're going next.
Yeah, okay. Because I was bouncing back between the two, and then at the end of the day, the answer can still be the partnership is over, and that's fine. And I feel like, but if you're walking away with a little bit better understanding of each other, and if you're going to walk away from this and not hate the other person and have some empathy for them, I feel like that's still a win in terms of restoring.
It can be. It's a win for you more than it is necessarily a win for them, is what I would say. Like they may not necessarily see that as a win. Both of them may entirely be in the situation of, I just can't stand this person. And maybe walking away from each other is the healthiest thing for us. So I completely understand what you're saying, because I also have that mindset. But I think one thing I've learned, especially from talking with Carolyn a little bit and watching some of our previous mediations around relationships, is also to recognize that that extra step of promoting healing may require way more involvement and time than is necessarily going to fit within the scope of your mediation. So that's just one thing I would keep in mind.
Yeah. I mean, did you think there was a way that I could have tried to broach it a little differently to help restore the relationship a little bit?
It's possible. I actually was surprised, Kristen. I don't know if your instructions had that you wanted to walk away. I actually read my instructions as I was supposed to walk away. So I was gearing myself up for being like, I'm going to leave and Kristen has to pay me. So it's really interesting that all of a sudden it became Kristen is leaving. And I was like, great, let Kristen walk away in shame and I will take over the company. And, that sounds wonderful. Like, so I wonder if maybe having done individual sessions and weighed out options with us might have yielded more results around that question of restructuring, because I think neither of us wanted to lose face in front of each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kristen, I don't know if you have any immediate feeling on that.
Yeah, no, I mean, my instruction says that I wanted to walk away with
Okay.
money. So yeah, I guess
We
I
both wanted to walk away. Yeah,
we
so
both
Both want
walk
to walk
away.
away, we
were
might,
done.
yeah.
We were done.
You
Yep.
dissolving the company.
Yeah. I mean, it might have been an option as well.
Um, and I mean, I'm curious. I want to learn more about that module. Where did you train from?
Yeah, it's called the Center for Understanding Conflict.
Okay.
They're based in Marin County in California and in upstate New York.
Okay, perfect. Well, if there is no question, I do thank you all so very much for being here. And Abby, thank you so very much for
Thank you.
job well done.
Thank you
I
so much.
wish you all a good rest of your day and a good weekend, and hopefully I will see all of you again soon.